morning, third graders. We're going to take a look at your assignment from lesson 8-1. So up here at the top of my paper, I'm going to write the title of our lesson here so that it helps me remember which lesson we're doing. And we are using our understanding of relating multiplication and division. And remember, multiplication or division is the idea of an unknown factor. So if you look at your assignment, and don't forget, you're going to put your name. So remember, your name goes here, please, and the date, and 81. Oh my goodness. Going way into the future. And please also put a page number. This will help me when I'm organizing papers to make sure that everybody's paper that turns this in next week is going to have a name, date, and page number. So let's take a look at number 2. And I want to look back at this idea of an unknown factor. This is a factor. We have 6 as a factor, and this is a blank, and it is also a factor, and we know the product. We know our total. So I'm saying I have 6 groups of a number, whatever that number might be, and if I add those groups together of whatever this number is, it should add up to 36, because remember, multiplication is repeated addition. So division is taking that total number of objects and putting it into groups, in this case groups, or we could actually put this amount in each group to find out how many groups there are. Remember, these are interchangeable, so that means I can have a different number of groups and I can switch that to a number in each group. So if I were to take these 36 objects and put them into 6 equal groups, then I would want to know how many objects will be in each group. So in this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups, and I'm going to put an equal number in each group. So if I started, let's say for example, if I wanted to start with 5, what is 5 times 6? Well, 5 groups of 6 or 6 groups of 5 would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. Well, that's not 36, but it's not over, which means we can add another one in here. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36. I like using 5 because 5s are really easy for me to multiply. So if I took my 36 objects and put them equally into these 6 groups, you would see that I would get 6 in each group. So the missing factor is 6, and that tells me my quotient will also be 6, because remember, your quotient is one of your missing factors in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to number 6 because this was even numbers. So maybe I might want to put that up here at the top of my paper. That way it reminds me that I only had to do the even numbers for this particular assignment. So if I were to look at number 6 is asking us to look at the fact family for 5, 6, and 30. And it's asking us to ask ourselves, what do you notice about the products and the dividends? Well, this is important vocabulary because we need to know what a product and a dividend is. So just a reminder, we use this vocabulary every day in our mathematics. So here we have a factor, and a product. And in division, we have a dividend. We're dividing it by the divisor. And finally, we have our quotient. So I'm just going to label these parts of my equation, dividend, and divisor. Now, it's asking us to look at what do we notice about the product and our dividend. Well, remember, each one of these is telling us our total, or the larger amount that we're trying to break up into smaller amounts. If we're talking about division, if we're talking about multiplication, it's the smaller groups that we're putting them all together to make the larger group, or the total. So it asks us to create a fact family. So it's always easy to start with our multiplication facts. We can say we have 5 groups of 6 is going to give us our product of 30. Or if we were to take our factors and use the order property of multiplication, we could take the 6 groups of 5, because 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 is going to also give us 30. So it doesn't matter if you add 5 groups of 6 or 6 groups of 5. When you add those groups together, the total will remain the same, 30. Now, we need to take those 30 objects, and this time we're going to create 2 division sentences. So if I take these 30 objects and I put them into groups of 5, because remember, you can use repeated subtraction and subtract amounts away from this total to get how many groups you will have. Well, if I take 30 and I keep subtracting groups of 5 out, I will find that I have 6 groups. Or if I were to take 30 and use 6 and start subtracting groups of 6, I will still have 5 groups of 6. So just like in multiplication, our groups and our number in each group can be interchangeable or switched. Our groups and our number in each group can also be switched. So, but we always in division start with our total. Let's take a look at number 8. Number 8 says 8 times blank, 8 groups of blank is equal to 16. Or blank groups of 8 is also equal to 16. We could think about it that way also. So let's think about it maybe this way. How many groups of 8 would it take for me to make 16? So one group of 8 would be 8. 2 groups of 8 would be, right, 16. So if I have 2 groups of 8, then 8 groups of 2 should also be 16. And I can check myself by using repeated addition or skip counting in this case. And I could go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and finally 16. And you'll notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 twos, or 8 groups of 2. So 8 twos is the same thing as saying 8 groups of 2. Now, if I wanted to use the idea of unknown factor for division, I could take those 16 objects and I could still count by 2s to find out how many groups of those 2 I would get, or how many groups of my 8 I would make. So I could start 8 and then skip count and add another 8, and that would be 16. So to get to 16, I would need 2 groups of 8 to get to that 16. So 8 times 2 is equal to 16, like 16 divided by 8 is equal to 2. Okay, number 10. And I'm just doing a few just to keep you on the right track of what we're seeing in our lesson today. So 6 groups of blank is 48. Or if I take 48 and put it into groups of 6, I would get how many groups of 6? Or I could think about, I have 6 groups and I could put objects into that group. But I think this time I want to think about, I have 6 objects in each group and I want to find out how many groups of 6 I have. To me, it makes it easier if I skip count. So if I started with 6, I add another group of 6, that would be 12. Add another group of 6, that would be 18. And I could continue adding groups of 6, 24. Add 6 onto 4, that makes a new 10, which would be 30. Add 30 plus 6 more would make 36. Add 6 onto 6, which is 12. And since that tells me I have a new 10 to regroup here, now I'm at 42. And add another group of 6 to 42. And I get 6 and 2 makes 8. I don't have any 10s to regroup, so I have 48. So, how many groups of 6 was I able to count on? 8 groups of 6. So my missing factor here is going to be 8. I had 8 groups of 6, or 6 groups of 8. It's going to be the same thing. I'm going to do one more. Again, this is just to make sure you're on the right track for using your multiplication correctly to help you with your division. So again, it's always important to remember that we are trying to learn our multiplication facts fluently, meaning without having to put a lot of thought into it. We should be able to have them fairly memorized. It's going to make your division easier. So, groups of 3 or 3 groups of a number is going to give me 27. I want to know how many. So again, if I started counting by groups of 3s, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, and finally 27. Now, this would have to be blank times 3 equals 27, if we were to write that based on what we just did. But that's okay, because remember, we know that these factors can be interchangeable. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 3 groups of 9, which means I could have 9 plus 9 plus 9. And think about it, there's 3 3s in a 9. So 9 plus 9 is 18, and 18 plus 9 more is going to give me my 27, which is the total here. So if I take my 27 and I put it into 3 equal groups, 9 in one group, 9 in another group, 9 in another group. So 9 is going to be our quotient. And so later on, when we meet for our tomorrow when we meet for our live meeting, we will continue to talk about the remaining of these problems for this assignment. So hopefully this has helped and you have gleaned or learned some other information. So talk to you tomorrow. Make sure you have your assignment complete. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put it in the email or Schoology messages. Thank you and have a great day.